Why lie about it for so long?
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay.
What do you mean you've stopped calling it a lie? It's either a lie or it's not a lie. Well, I've stopped calling it a lie. Okay, you can call it a banana if you want. When news hit that Joe Biden had reversed course, gone back on his word, and given a blanket pardon to his corrupt, prostitute peddling, crack smoking, grifter of a son, Hunter Biden, I had one thought in my mind, one thought and one thought only. What will the ladies of The View say? And then thankfully, about an hour ago, we got the answer, and boy, is it good. Let's start with Whoopi Goldberg, shall we?
Yesterday, Biden had a change of heart, granting his son a full pardon on tax evasion and federal gun charges. He released a statement that, quote, says no reasonable person who looks at the facts can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out because he is my son. That is wrong, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Now, I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. So the question is, will people understand?
All right. So we'll get to that in a second. But did you see what just happened there? This is why, again, I like to point out that The View is a program of the ABC News division. This is a news show. And what you just heard from Whoopi Goldberg, the main anchor of this news show called The View, was, well, just not honest and not truthful and not, well, the news. Let me break it down for you real quickly here, and then we'll get to the next step.
Yesterday, Biden had a change of heart, granting his son a full pardon on tax evasion and federal gun charges.
Now, that's not true. That's not entirely true, at least. That's not news. That's a selective portion of the news. See, the tax charges and the gun charges, those are the two counts that he's actually been found guilty of. But he just gave his son a pardon that goes all the way back to 2014, well before the gun charges and before any charges related to the IRS have been levied. So that's Whoopi Goldberg trying to sort of diminish the ramifications of what Joe Biden did. And to call it a change of heart is kind of a cute way of saying Joe Biden's a lying sack of shinola. All right, so a little bit more here.
He released a statement that, quote, says no reasonable person who looks at the facts can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out because he is my son.
All right, singled out by whom? Who singled out Hunter Biden? You see, this was an investigation by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's Department of Justice. So he's saying that it doesn't matter who the president is, the Justice Department is so politically corrupt that they will go after me and my son to try to break us. Isn't that exactly why Donald Trump wants to clean house at the Justice Department? In fact, if you agree with Joe Biden, and as far as I know, every single Democrat in this town who has not said anything to criticize Joe Biden yet, they all agree with Joe on this, that they're behind him. I'm standing with Joe. I'm with him. Then they must agree that the Justice Department is inexcusably and irrevocably corrupt, and it has to be turned upside down and cleaned out with Clorox bleach. Good. Let's go. All right. Then the panel discussion continues. I'll skip ahead now.
Listen, I get it. I mean, we got a convicted felon as president.
Yes.
It's hard for me to.
Yes.
And I know that you know who's been asking, are you going to pardon the January 6th folks? Actually, probably not. But I kind of feel like I look at the list of folks that who pardoned during the first term. He granted 237 acts of clemency, 143 pardons, and 94 commutations, including Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Charles Kushner, Steve Bannon, George Papadopoulos, Albert Pirro, and Lil Wayne.
Everybody. I forgot about Lil Wayne.
Yeah. And Lil Wayne. So
It's funny when you go through that list of people that Donald Trump pardoned or granted clemency to or commutations, none of them had the last name Trump. Is that not sort of a factor in here, Whoopi? Number one. Number two, when you grant those things, oftentimes a vast majority, if not all of those people, actually were convicted and served time before they were granted clemency. They were also granted clemency during the pandemic, where we had governors in other states literally opening the doors of their prisons and just letting people walk free, right? I think there's a slight difference here, number one, because Hunter Biden is a family member and the son of the president of the United States who granted this pardon. And number two, this is a blanket pardon for any crime that could have been committed over a 10-year period, which is very different than what Donald Trump did. But listen, they have spent the last 8+ years saying that Donald Trump is Hitler, Donald Trump is corrupt, Donald Trump is the worst man on the planet, Donald Trump is evil. And if their entire argument today is that, well, of course Biden did it because Trump did it, and they're basically the same. Okay, you go with that, ladies. You go with that, because that's what they're reduced to.
It is a president's prerogative. You know, people can say, oh, why are you doing that? But that's what presidents do every time. They do it every time they pardon somebody. So I'm not sure why the pearl clutching is happening now, except that that's what folks want to do. But it seems kind of foolish. You kind of knew he was going to do it, given all that's happened. But maybe I'm just kooky.
Yeah, well, she is kind of kooky. That's one word for it. But I do like the, well, you knew this was going to happen. So in other words, the entire time Joe Biden was saying he wasn't going to do this, and Karine Jean-Pierre was out there saying it wasn't going to happen, and all these people in the news and the media were saying it wasn't going to happen, Whoopi this entire time said, well, you kind of know he's going to do it. You kind of know they're all lying. You kind of know that they're all lying to us. And by the way, again, ABC News program The View with their main anchor, Whoopi Goldberg. I don't remember her coming on television saying, listen, you know, he's lying, right? He's lying, and everybody in the White House is lying about this because we all know it's going to happen. It's amazing how now, but it's a president's prerogative. He can do this. Something tells me that if the story were reversed and this was Donald Trump doing this for his son, Donald Trump Jr., I think they'd have a different take. I could be wrong. No, I'm not wrong. I'm definitely not wrong. More from The View here, though.
So I see this one a little bit differently. And some of you know this, but I grew up with an immediate family member who was in and out of jail for addiction-related offenses when I was growing up. And now, a decade later, clean, have their life together, serve their time, are still dealing with the consequences. Inability to vote at time, paying restitution, working to get your record expunged, not being able to be eligible for certain employment. Most Americans, if they face consequences for actions that they took, they're going to have to face them. And nobody powerful and politically connected is going to come sweep in and save them. And I think, this feeds the notion to a lot of this country that there's simply a different set of rules for folks in power. And when we sit here and we say a lot like, well, Donald Trump did X, Y, and Z, and how did he get elected? Because to a lot of this country, it just becomes noise. They think that if you commit crimes and somebody powerful and connected in D.C., right, left, center, Biden, Trump, you're going to be able to get away with it if you have someone on your side, and that's not how it is for everyday folks. Secondly, I take issue with lying about it. I wanted to ask him here when he came on The View, but the thought was he said so many times he wasn't going to pardon him. That, to me, is lying to the public. I felt bad for Karine Jean-Pierre that she repeatedly had to say that he wasn't going to pardon him. This is why people don't trust Washington. That's why they don't trust politicians. And I know a lot of us like Joe Biden, but I find it disappointing and bad for our institution.
Oh, but I do love it. I know a lot of us like Joe Biden. Why? I'm curious, why do you still like Joe Biden after all of this? I mean, listen, Alyssa Farah is right in terms of the double standards, but my favorite part about that, again, journalist and member of ABC News, Alyssa Farah, saying, I wanted to ask him about it when he was here, but, you know, he'd said it so many times, it seems like, of course, he was telling the truth. You know, that's when you know you're dealing with a real journalist, a real hard-hitting interviewer. And now you know why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were just fine going on The View, even though, of course, one question on The View pretty much upended Kamala Harris's chances for the election. A little bit more on this whole idea of there being two sets of rules when it comes to the law for the rich and powerful and connected versus just the rest of us.
Well, look, I think sometimes, unfortunately, in this country, there are two sets of justice. right? I too have many family members convicted of felonies, marijuana, related to marijuana. They haven't been able to get positions in certain places. They haven't even been able to get housing in certain places. When I applied to be a federal prosecutor, there was a checkbox. If you're a felon, explain the circumstances, and you were more than likely not to get that. Now, as Whoopi said, that we have a convicted felon in the White House. Those questions should not be asked of anyone, anytime, anywhere. That is the bottom line. That policy needs to be changed. The other thing is,
and so again, going back to the here's the interesting thing here, Sunny Hostin. The jobs that you're talking about, where you have to check a box on a form that says whether you convicted felon or not, that's so that the person who's doing the hiring can then take that into account and evaluate whether they're willing to entrust their business and their company's brand and their reputation with someone who is a convicted felon. But you need to disclose it so that that person making the hiring decision has all the facts in front of them. You want to compare that to Donald Trump being a convicted felon, but he won the election. Well, see, we're the employers in this case. Donald Trump checked the box. It was no secret. We all knew that he was a convicted felon. Trust me, we watched it play out before our very eyes because you guys made sure that it was all over the media for a year that Donald Trump was arrested and indicted, and here's the mugshot, and he's in the courtroom, and he's going to get convicted, and he got convicted, and we're calling him a convicted felon every chance that we get. So we were doing the hiring. We saw that he was a convicted felon. We took it into account, and we decided we were okay with it. And another employer will take it into account, and they'll decide whether they're okay with it or not. That's their right. That's their prerogative. But you're just a deceptive, duplicitous liar if you think that the one has anything to do with the other. And because Donald Trump won an election where tens of millions of people rejected your kangaroo court conviction of him, that in some way that extrapolates to a guy who owns a 7-Eleven having to hire somebody who's been convicted of robbing a 7-Eleven, well, you're just a moron. And a lying moron at that. Love you, though. I do. A little bit more from Sunny here.
Trump did escape responsibility for all his crimes. He's nominating Charles Kushner, who he pardoned, as you mentioned, as the ambassador to France. Do you know what a nice, cushy job that is that any felon would like? And, so pleased with the hypocritical pearl clutching by this country. Eric Holder, I think, said it really well. No U.S. attorney would have charged this case given the underlying facts that have been investigated for 5 years. Less than, get this, 0.09% of people are indicted, prosecuted, charged, and found guilty of lying on a gun form.
That's a fascinating statistic, by the way. And if that's the case, could we just do away with all of the pearl clutching, as you like to say, and grandstanding and sanctimony from those who were trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights by constantly trying to add layer upon layer upon layer of federal bureaucracy in front of and in the way of our ability to exercise our Second Amendment rights? Because you're all just full of crap about it. All right. Think about this for a minute. The two things that Hunter Biden has already been found guilty of, and then God knows all the other things that he'll never have a chance to be found guilty of because he's now gotten a blanket pardon going all the way back to 2014, even for child prostitution, right? Because we've all seen the pictures on the laptop. But the two things that he actually got convicted of are two things that Democrats absolutely love. Two things that are like on the Mount Rushmore of issues for Democrats that they love running on, that they love beating up conservatives and Republicans over, and they love raising money on. Number one, guns. We need more regulations, common sense gun safety regulations. We need to infringe on people's Second Amendment rights more and more and more. We need universal background checks. Really, what happens in those background checks? Well, you have to answer questions on a form truthfully about your background. Oh, like if you're a drug user or not, because Hunter Biden lied about that and you seem just fine with it. In fact, you're trumpeting the fact that only 1.4% of people who lie on that form get convicted. Well, why the hell do we have the form in the first place? And why do you beat us up and try to get that? Only the honest people have their rights infringed by all of these Second Amendment infringements that they try to put out there. And if you're a criminal, you're going to get the gun that you want anyway. So could you just leave us alone? Oh, and then if taxes, of course, that's the other thing. Rich people need to pay their fair share. Rich people need to pay their fair share. That's all we hear from Democrats, from Bernie Sanders to Elizabeth Warren. You know, all the rich people in the Senate who are Democrats, to Hillary Clinton, to Joe Biden. We just want the rich to pay their fair share. Hunter Biden's pretty rich, guys. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. And guess what? He didn't pay his fair share, and he just got pardoned for it. I don't want to hear it again from these people. They don't take these laws seriously, not in any way whatsoever. All right, but we move on to a little bit more from Sunny Hostin. First, I think my favorite freeze frame of this entire year so far, of a great year's worth of freeze frames on this break. Could we blow that up for a second, Kevin, so we could see Sunny Hostin? That's how I always want to remember Sunny, when the View gets taken off the air. All right, a little bit more from Sunny Hostin.
You've got former prosecutors like myself saying it. So,
Why
you know,
didn't he admit it
it's-
Wait.
I think one of the reasons why he didn't admit it earlier was because he didn't know
Sonny,
that the felon in chief would become the next president.
Did you catch that? So that's Alyssa Farah saying, listen, if he was gonna, if the crimes were stupid, if he was being charged only because his name is Hunter Biden, if nobody would have been charged with this, crime unless their last name was Biden, as Eric Holder said, then why didn't Joe Biden, on the day he was convicted, why didn't Joe Biden say, I'm going to pardon my son because this is not fair in this right? Now, the obvious answer is because Joe Biden wanted to be reelected. And then after the fact, he didn't want to saddle Kamala Harris with this because he wanted Kamala Harris to get reelected, probably. And if he had pardoned Hunter Biden during the campaign, then Kamala Harris would have been stuck and she would have had to answer to it. And she would have either alienated Joe Biden, the Biden family, and Democrats by saying, oh, well, that's wrong, he shouldn't have done that, or she'd have to own it. That's why he didn't admit it. That's why he lied about it this entire time. It's obvious to anybody with a brain. But Sunny Hostin's decided that the real reason Joe Biden lied is because of Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump's fault.
You've got former prosecutors like myself saying it. So,
Why didn't he admit it
Wait.
I think one of the reasons why he didn't admit it earlier was because he didn't know that the felon in chief would become the next president.
By the way, someone needs to explain the logic of that. The reason he didn't say that he was going to pardon Hunter is because he didn't know Donald Trump was going to get elected. But now that Donald Trump's been elected, he has to pardon him. Oh, is it because he knew that Kamala Harris would ignore the law and not pursue any charges against Hunter Biden? Is that what you're admitting, Sunny Hostin? That the only reason he needed a pardon now was because somebody was going to come in and actually take the rule of law seriously, and that man's name is Donald Trump and the other U.S. attorneys and attorney general that get appointed to actually enforce the law? Is that what you're admitting? Because if that's what you're admitting, probably the first truthful thing we've heard on this show in quite some time. All right, now my favorite part. We now turn to the genius that is Ana Navarro. And, Ana Navarro is on this panel and on many panels because she claims she is a Republican political consultant. Now, I could be wrong about this, and forgive me if I am, but my understanding from people who are actual Republican political consultants is that Ana Navarro's entirety of her career as a Republican political consultant was in the state of Florida when, for the Jeb Bush campaign for governor, and then I believe for the John McCain campaign for president in 2008, and boy, wasn't that a good campaign, that she was an unpaid consultant to build the Latino vote for Republicans in Florida. And that really worked out well, didn't it? But now that's what my friends tell me who are actually in these circles. And then she turned that unpaid volunteer position on that losing campaign for John McCain into a media persona that she now uses to attack Donald Trump. She is the most Democrat Republican consultant you'll ever see. I lay that out there for you because what Ana Navarro is about to say makes all of this worthwhile. It actually crystallizes the logic behind this entire thing. Ana Navarro, take it away.
I actually talked to Joe Biden about this when he was on the show. I told him I hoped he pardoned Hunter.
I remember.
You did. I remember.
I went to speak at the Biden Institute in Delaware like a month later, and we talked on the phone, and I told him I hoped he pardoned Hunter. I left him a handwritten note at his desk at the University of Delaware and told him I hoped he pardoned Hunter. And the reason I thought it was important is because I wanted him to hear from people who support him and respect him, which I do, that some of us, I'd say most of us, think it's okay for him to pardon Hunter because of what you just said, that so many of the people who committed this crime do not get prosecuted. Imagine the guilt that Joe Biden has to live with, thinking that his son, his only surviving son, is getting prosecuted because he is his son.
Wow, poor Joe Biden having to live with that guilt. But did you catch that? Did you catch that? The reason that Joe Biden did this apparently is because Ana Navarro lobbied so hard for it. I mean, finally, somebody listened to Ana Navarro's advice. This tells you what a great political consultant she is, that her advice to Joe Biden was to pardon Hunter, because boy, what a winner this is. What a winning political move, and what a great American move it is. It's such a great thing for our nation. It's such a great thing for Democrats. It's such a great thing for Joe Biden's legacy. This is Ana Navarro's idea of political consulting. Hey, Joe, I got a great idea for you. It's gonna be killer. This is a home run, baby. I'm telling you, you're gonna knock him out. You should pardon Hunter. I'm gonna leave you a handwritten note. I'm gonna suggest it every chance I have. That's what you need to do. Maybe she is a brilliant Republican consultant. Maybe she's playing 8D chess with all of us, and she's actually ingratiated herself in there. She's given Joe this advice, and Joe's been like, you know what, that Ana Navarro, she's got my best interest at heart. I'm gonna do what she suggested. I'm gonna go ahead and pardon Hunter, thus creating this cascade of events that will end up being Republican domination in American politics for the next 30 years. And it's all Ana Navarro's fault. I don't think that's the case. I think she's actually that much of a moron here that she thinks this was a great idea. But hey, I could be wrong. But yeah, let me just be clear here. This whole idea that is, well, he's just got to do this for his son because he loves his son and he wants to help him. That's fine. You can make that case, and he should have made that case when he pardoned his son, but that's not what he said. That's what he did. And by the way, he would have done that on day one. From the moment his son was convicted, he would have said, well, listen, I understand he was convicted, but I love my son. I don't want him to go to jail. I'm going to do whatever I can with him. I would die for my child. And so I'm going to go ahead and take the political hit, but I'm going to pardon my son. But you see, he didn't do that. He wasn't willing to take any political hit until after all was said and done, until after the election, until after it really couldn't hurt him and hurt Kamala Harris. You can't hurt Joe Biden now at this point. He's already been president. He's on his way out. He's not running for re-election anymore. He didn't actually do anything noble for his son and help him out of his deep, abiding love for him. Oh, and by the way, the language in his letter said nothing about doing this for his son because he loves him so much. The language in the letter was, we're being persecuted. They're coming after us. The Justice Department is corrupt, which, by the way, I'm sure Donald Trump appreciates, because that'll rationalize not only every nominee he's putting forward to fix the Justice Department and the FBI, but it also is the foundational basis for every single January 6th pardon that Donald Trump better deliver on his first day in office. That said, Ana Navarro had one more bit of wisdom. This now, instead of that great wise advice that she gave to Joe, this advice is for Hunter. Hunter, make sure you're listening. Your abuela, Ana Navarro, is talking to you.
I'll say this. Hunter, your dad has given you a great, great gift. The gift of freedom and taking this weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
I hope now Hunter gives his dad a gift. The gift of being a good son, a good father, a good grandfather, a good human being,
But can I
leading a
ask a
productive
question?
life. Can I finish?
Mhm.
And staying clean for the rest of his life. So I hope that this goes both.
Wow, that's really sweet and that's wonderful, and it's tugging at my heartstrings. They talk about this guy, Hunter Biden, like he's 23 years old. He's in his 50s. Okay, he's in his 50s. And your father has given you a gift. Let's just be clear on this. Anything that the president of the United States is able to give someone is only empowered by we the people. You see, we the people, through our constitutional process, grant the pardon power to the President of the United States. And when the President delivers that pardon, he's doing it on our behalf. So Hunter did not get a gift from his dad. He got a pardon from the President of the United States, who was empowered by we the people. So if Hunter has any gratitude for this, it should be directed at us, even though we weren't consulted on this one. But this whole idea of, well, now you need to be a good son, and now you need to be this, and now you need to be that, and you should be clean and sober. Let me just tell you something. As a dad and as a son, I'll just boldly tell you that the reason that Hunter Biden has done the things that he's done throughout his life is because of his dad, because of the fathering that he got, because of how his father always sent the message that you're a Biden and your dad is powerful. You can go ahead and do whatever you want because you're Hunter Biden, damn it. And any trouble you get into, I'll use my power to help you out and get you out of it, Scott-free. Absolutely. I'll get you a commission to the Navy. You can join the Navy as an officer. If you dropped out after a month because of your rampant drug use that we all knew about when I got you that job in the Navy, that's fine. We'll cover it up. We'll clean it up for you. We'll take care of you. His entire life, he's been given a pass and gotten bailed out because of his dad. You know what good fathering is? Good fathering is ensuring that your son actually does have to pay a price when they screw up, because that's the only way that they learn the lesson. In fact, my hunch is that Joe didn't spend a whole lot of time doling out much punishment to his son when he screwed around, and that's why his son kept screwing around more and more, because he would have liked to have actually been on his dad's radar now and again, even if it was just for negative attention. This whole idea that Hunter owes his dad something, you should be a good son now. I got an idea. How about Joe be a good dad for once in his 80 plus years? Abuela. Oh, but they're not done. There's more here on The View. It's so good.
I don't understand two things, because I respect it as a parent. I understand why he would do it, but I wonder to understand why lie about it for so long.
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why repeatedly say you're not going to and you do? And secondarily,
But I'm sorry, I got to jump in here. I love that. I've stopped calling it a lie. Oh, well, that makes it better. What do you mean you've stopped calling it a lie? It's either a lie or it's not a lie. Well, I've stopped calling it a lie. Okay, you can call it a banana if you want. Where's the reality here? That's just a beautiful moment. Again, ABC News, Whoopi Goldberg, employee in good standing. Can we just hear that one more time?
I respect it as a parent. I understand why he would do it, but I wonder to understand why lie about it for so long.
I'd stop calling it a lie.
Okay, why repeatedly say you're not going to and you do? And secondarily, for the part of this country, half of it that doesn't support Biden, doesn't know him personally, doesn't get to have phone calls, and they're just looking at a system that seems like it only benefits the people who are in power.
I'm going to say,
what precedent does that set?
Well, here's what it says. It's a precedent for all of us to open our eyes, because we've elected someone who is in a similar situation, who didn't have a drug problem, who knew what he was doing, who clearly stood and said, I can do this. And he did it. So I think, for many, many reasons, this is very different than any other situation that we have ever dealt with, because when we're talking about who gets a pardon and who doesn't get a pardon, this man, I think Biden had no intentions of pardoning Hunter. And I think the more stuff that went down, I think he said, well, why am I busting my behind to stay straight and do this when nobody else is, when no one else is doing it?
I think he thought he was going to win, and I just wish he would have been honest with the public.
Yeah, as bad as Alyssa Farah is, she's actually right about this. The only reason that the the pardon didn't come sooner is because he wanted to win the election or have his party win the election. But I do love Whoopi Goldberg, still trying to paint Joe Biden as this deeply moral man who walks the straight and narrow and everything. And I just want you to listen or think about the morality of the person that she just describes. I don't think he had any intention of pardoning his son. All right, because he was standing his ground. He is moral, he is ethical, and he was standing on principle. But then he saw other people getting away with crimes, and he decided, well, why should I be the only one who follows the law? So I'll go ahead and do this. Now, maybe in Hollywood, where Whoopi Goldberg lives, that actually makes some kind of moral sense. But where I am, where most people are in their lives, that is literal moral idiocy. In fact, it's the opposite of morality. It's the opposite of character. It's the opposite of principle. Joe Biden said he wouldn't pardon his son because he's a man of such great integrity and moral fiber. But then when he saw other people getting away with it, he decided to go ahead and do it because that's just how moral he is. I was at the store and I was not going to shoplift anything because that's the kind of moral, principled person that I am. But then I saw other people shoplifting and they were getting away with it. So I went ahead and shoplifted. But it's okay that I did because I wasn't going to because of my character or something. And these people have to live with themselves every single day. All right, one last clip from The View.
And look, he's the president, the sitting president, and he can do whatever he wants to until his time is up.
I don't like that president. Donald Trump's about to be president.
Well, that's what. But that's what. That's what the. That's
the
what
presidency should be bigger than his feelings.
It should be, but
He's
it
a
is
very small man.
This is I can't believe that this is what's freaking people out. That this is the thing that says, oh well,
matter.
see,
Precedents. Matter.
It does, but I'm noticing the man who would not normally be able to even vote for president is the president.
Because people don't have
it's you know what? It's good for the goose. It's good for the gander. He did what he did. We're moving on. We'll be right back.
There you go. Hey, that's the entirety of the moral discussion here. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Trump did it, therefore anything. And by the way, what did Trump do exactly? Trump's trial and convictions, which the American people knew everything about, did not stand in the way of him winning the election. They're acting like Trump did something by winning the presidency. We did it, Whoopi. We knew that you charged him and convicted him, and we elected him anyway. It's on us, not on him. Don't blame Trump for that. And the fact that Joe Biden didn't do this while he was still running for election or his running mate was running for election, Kamala Harris, proves that he knew the American people would not accept his felonious actions, or that's not the right word, felonious, because that suggests he's broken the law here. They wouldn't accept his actions here and his, pardoning and excusing his son's felonious actions. The American people would not have accepted that the way we did accept the convictions of Donald Trump, because we knew, we all know that the charges against Donald Trump are, number one, still pending appeal, and number two, were complete and total crap. But this is what you have to do when you're on the left, when you're Whoopi Goldberg and when you're the people on The View, to twist yourself and contort yourself without any kind of moral compass or true North Star to be able to deliver, I guess, what you just saw them deliver. Amazing. I do want to give a shout out to Nicholas Fondacaro over at Media Research Center Newsbusters. He has to watch The View every day. And that was glorious, all the clips that he just pulled. We love Media Research Center and the folks over at Newsbuster, and Nick in particular. If you thought The View was going to change for the Trump presidency, well, I guess you just got your answer. This is what they're going to do. And everything, no matter what happens, no matter what Democrats do, it's so easy. It would be so easy to be on The View if I were one of those women. Because no matter what Democrats do, I can say, well, Trump, Trump, Trump. And then that's it. That's the entirety of your thought process when having to work out your analysis when you're on The View. It would sure make my job easier. Instead, I don't know, I actually have to think and bring you some new perspectives and actually hopefully make you look at the news events the way you didn't. Open an IRA in gold with Birch Gold and you'll get free silver shipped directly to your home. That's right. You're getting free silver because you know me. It's the most wonderful time of the year, the only time of the year that Birch Gold gives away a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased. And the best part, you don't have to pay a penny out of pocket. Yeah, that's right. It's literally free. Simply convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And Birch Gold is going to send your free silver coins directly to your home. Now, you might be thinking, why do I need to diversify gold? My guy's heading to D.C. Things are good. Well, here's the facts. An administration trying to reverse a $36 trillion national debt in just 4 years is like a field mouse trying to stop a freight train. It's not going to be easy. We have a huge amount to pay on that interest on the debt, let alone the principal. So take action now. Protect your savings. Text Larry to 989898 before December 18th. Get a free info kit on gold and to claim your eligibility for free silver on qualifying purchases from Birch Gold. Do it before December 18th. Again, text Larry, Larry, to the number 989898 for peace of mind that lasts longer than 4 years.